Pokemon Snap is a beautifully simple concept for its time. In 1999, Pokemon were sprites. Stadium brought them into 3D and the anime into cleaner 2D, but Snap was a brilliant way to flesh out Pokemon in 3D and in their natural habitats, a unique and appealing concept tied to an interesting gameplay style that's as much a rail shooter as it is a slice-of-life photography game. Snap was developed by HAL Laboratory, which was everywhere at the time on Nintendo consoles, Kirby, Smash Bros, Mario Party. The game began as an original property called Jack and Beans, a name that the development teams used as their own, even for the final game, but would add Pokemon to help motivate the photography gameplay. For a Nintendo 64 game, it's had a solid history of re-releases, Wii and Wii U Virtual Console, and recently Switch Online, which makes this neat little game extremely accessible. Pokemon Snap is the most traditional, non-traditional rail shooter you could ever see. At all times, the game stampedes forward with the car Todd snaps right in, only stopping when a Pokemon gets in the way. Odd side note, but Todd first appeared in the anime about a year before this game released, although it's more likely than not that the game was in development when the idea to put him in the anime came about. At the beginning of the game, Todd only has his camera. The vehicle is an uncontrollable beast, but Todd can look in any direction and snap up to 40 pictures per level, with each stage only lasting a handful of minutes, hardly more than 5. Pictures are graded on a number of qualities: size, which is a reward for getting most of the Pokemon up close and personal; pose, which judges how interesting a Pokemon is situated. Early on, this is out of your control, but one of the game's best characteristics is how manipulable the subjects become later; and finally, centering the subject in the image. There's some other minor bonuses. Capturing multiple of the same Pokemon gives a bit extra, and there are rare poses, which are special situations that can be set up like a surfing Pikachu for huge bonuses. Score ultimately drives progress. Levels and items are unlocked through reaching overall score thresholds on photographs, and these items further allow reaching for secret exits to move to new areas, but also the items create opportunities to score more points to further progress. The first item unlocked is apples. That's not some weird Pokemon thing, they're just apples, but it turns out they're very multifaceted tools, primarily used to lure Pokemon about, move or rotate them by attracting them with food, which can also give them stronger poses. Leading Pokemon around is interesting in setting up unique interactions too. Pikachu can be led to a surfboard and something. You can lead a Pikachu to a waterboard, but you can't make it surf. Whatever. But this isn't all. Apples are also hard. They bonk. A bonked Pokemon can be briefly stunned, letting them be caught up to, stopped, or even angered for some unique interactions. Pester Balls are a little more restrictive, but tend to be more useful in their niche. Thrown like apples, they provide more stun when they hit a Pokemon, throwing them around, waking them up, knocking them out of the air. It's the most direct weapon the player has and sets up more extreme reaction, as well as when they're thrown in water, it often causes a Pokemon to jump out. The dash engine lets the player increase the speed of the car. That's kinda it, but it lets the player have a substantial amount of control over lining up shots, given how many of the subjects of photographs move. Lastly, the player gets the Pokeflute. The music triggers various unique effects, primarily on sleeping Pokemon, but many Pokemon will also just bust a move, which is good for posing. It's the most limited of the items, but as with the others, uniquely helps solve puzzles and snap photos. Many Pokemon can't be found or photographed without some combination of these items, whether it's drawing them out, evolving them, or so on, which makes every upgrade exciting. Every past stage opens up a little more and teases that more Pokemon pay off when new tools can be used to find them. The game is extraordinarily simple. It's point and shoot, completely understandable, but finds new ways to layer it and build on it to keep it fresh, especially when trying to maximize your scores on levels and on certain Pokemon, which can be extremely strategic as you gain more and more options. The game's short length is a really good thing for it visually. Most impressive is its stages, most likely because there are only 7 of them. The game can be 100% completed in about 3.5 hours, which allows them to be really dense with details and really distinct from each other. Locales from the beach to the volcano to the desert canyon all have their own touches, and thanks to limited movement available to the player, given this is a rail shooter, they can be dense with little details, and even include neat things for the time, like rudimentary changes to lighting facilitated by the simplicity of the design. The Pokemon are also fairly impressive, mostly from an animation standpoint. The models themselves are mostly good, but some of the Pokemon are substantially worse than others, like the low poly Chansey on the beach. What never lacks is the animation. Pokemon are pretty on rails for the most part, which probably helps, but move and act very believably. Pidgey flap their wings frantically to stay afloat, Meowth makes cartoony faces when angered, Jigglypuff squashes and stretches when interrupted by music, and this is made even more impressive when Pokemon are taken off the rails, as most Pokemon have some sort of reaction to all the player's items, unique animations for eating, including some Pokemon fighting over food, stun reactions when hit with things, dances to the flute. Despite a limited scope, it's a game that just feels so real for its time. As for the music, each stage has its own vibe that's carried as much by the visuals as it is by the music. The canyon theme has this slick Wild West edge to it with the whistling. The river is a bit eerie and mysterious while maintaining a kind of calm presence at the same time. The cave has this almost ambient music to it, very quiet and mysterious. It's a really limited selection, but helps set up the mood for every part of the game. The beach shows off the evolving nature of the stage's strongest, and as such it's the one I'll talk about the most. As you only have your camera the first time you enter, and each time you come back, you have more and more items to toy around with. The first trip still offers a lot to see. Pidgeys fly at the player out of the gate, Pikachu's on the beach, Doduo runs but it's far enough out to be hard to photograph, Kangaskhan hangs around but is facing the wrong way, Eevee chases a weird pink ball, Grass is being caught by an unseen Pokemon, Meowth chases the Pidgeys around and they get revenge on him later, which is a fun little storyline that plays out across the entire stage. Snorlax is sleeping, but in a way that it can't be photographed. There's even a puzzle that the camera can solve where Lapras appears far in the distance, and each time it's photographed it appears further and further down the course, as well as being closer and closer each time, rewarding you for keeping an eye out for it. Anytime something new is given to the player, they get a new set of opportunities in the stage. Apples can lead Pikachu to a surfboard for a special pose, or scare the pink ball into unfurling into Chansey. Pester balls can be used to anger Kangaskhan to orient it, stun Doduo to help catch it, scare Scyther out of the grass, or even rescue Meowth from the Pidgeys getting revenge on it to get a unique pose. While the flute can soothe Kangaskhan or wake up Snorlax for a great shot. Despite that, you're pretty frequently asked to return to areas. There's always something new to find. The game is paced perfectly to keep you getting new things at a good pace and make you excited to go back, unfolding as you have more and more to use. The beach is also a really nice first area. A lot of games pick simple areas to start, grassland, plains, but the beach is a really nice intro. It's pretty cluttered with stuff to see. It switches a lot even in its brief runtime, from a boardwalk to some more cliff-like areas, and it's just something that's very nice to look at. Beaches are pretty and fairly underutilized as settings in games because they're not exactly exciting, but this game also isn't trying to be. It's more so a light and breezy safari surrounded by a light and breezy environment. On initial pass through the tunnel, the player still only has the camera, but is fed a lot more information on first pass. Throughout the cave, littered with electronics and equipment from whatever was here before, are various electric Pokemon among others. Most stuff in the tunnel ironically doesn't need outside stuff for anything but better pictures, even the strange balls that turn out to be Haunter when photographed. On a second trip, the player will be given apples. These not only calm down Magnemite so they can be photographed, a show of their use as bait, but can also be used to detonate electrodes in the area. This allows for some unique opportunities by blowing up other Pokemon, but crucially, the one next to the rock wall towards the end of the game opens the path forward to the next stage. These slow intros to items, with showcases of its practical applications, are really cool little invisible tutorials. Both elements of the apple are showcased to show you how it can apply going forward or going back. Much later, it's also possible to hatch a giant egg in the tunnel by guiding a Pikachu to it with apples, although it also requires the flute, which contains Zapdos, whose own presence opens up some things by charging a generator. But even still, it all comes back to the apples, which were introduced in this stage. It's really clever game design that just folds back in on itself. The theme is probably the least interesting in the game, but it works really well mechanically. The Volcano gets the slice of life aspect of the game really right. Almost everything is predictably a fire type, but they seem pretty comfortable in their natural environments. Charmanders can be found in large packs and will swarm over food that comes near. Magmar, in contrast, attack Charmander and even other Magmar to guard apples that are thrown towards them. The Charmander are also tied into the game's evolution mechanics. Charmander losing a fight to Magmar makes it evolve into Charmeleon, and later Charmeleon can be thrown into lava to come out as a Charizard. Evolution methods can be a bit arbitrary, but are always their own neat little puzzles that often reward paying attention to how Pokemon interact with the world. Another egg also appears here, although unlike Zapdos, it blocks the main path forward, preventing progress. Hitting it with any item knocks in the lava to hatch. It's not as interesting as the other two, but serves nicely to indicate what the eggs are for after you've seen the first one in the previous stage. The river is my friend Grant's favorite stage. The dark and moody fog and simple music make it mysterious, and the water ride doesn't mix up the gameplay, but it's still a nice change of pace. I really like Slowpoke evolving properly by catching a Shelder. Poliwag is really cute, and the Porygon using camouflage to hide in the jungle is neat if a bit odd given that they're artificial and have no reason to be there. But the newly acquired Pester Ball can spook them out both to get a good picture and to open the path forward, as well as being used for various other things. Like I said earlier, the Pester Ball can be thrown in the water to make Pokemon jump out of it, and you're on a huge water path, so there's plenty of opportunities to do that. The Cave is the area most dense with secrets, which makes it great to explore. Articuno for one, but also evolving Grimer with Pester Balls, saving Pikachu to get Balloon Pikachu, rescuing a group of Jigglypuffs while they're put on a concert, realizing the Bulbasaur look a little weird. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but technically it's a very fun stage, and the crystals and otherworldly lighting in the cave make the stage very distinct and enjoyable in that regard. The Valley is the best stage. The old westy music, the incredible pace and density, that the movement speed increases to huge levels when going down the rapids, the only time the game really changes the gameplay for a setting, and so many cool secrets. Knocking squirrels out of the water is set up early and opens the final secret exit near the end, where Oak tells the player to find the signs, which are objects in the environment that resemble Pokemon, but so much more too. Throwing items into the water makes Magikarp pop out like on any other stage, but this stage rewards you for trying that by giving you different Pokemon, while Magikarp itself has an elaborate full stage setup to line it up for its big spectacular evolution. Sandshrew can be forced out from the underground by dropping Geodudes off cliffs, and more and more. The stage is a really good finale for the main stages. It's high-paced, it's busy, lots of spectacle, and it kinda just pushes all the puzzle elements that the game has up to 11 for its final showcase, which is a nice send-off to the game. Which only leaves the Rainbow Cloud, which is an interesting but gimmicky boss stage, I guess. Mew is the only Pokemon here, and it flies towards the player in a shield that prevents taking pictures, which needs to be shattered with Pester Balls to open it up for pictures. It's a really simplistic but a cute finale, and at the time, Mew was a pretty big deal that you didn't get for free 5 seconds into a mainline game. The stage looks nice, if a bit Mario-like, but it is kind of a fun way to make something of a boss encounter for this game, which is otherwise kind of a completely lackadaisical experience. That's mostly it. It's a short and simple game. There's an American novelization for children that I will not read. Back in the day, you could take the game cartridge into Blockbuster to get your pictures printed out onto film. It's just a really wild thing to think about, given that they don't exist anymore. And there's a fantastic sequel, but the game is short and dense. It's packed with secrets and fun for its entire playtime, but getting the true credits by photographing all 63 Pokemon takes well under 5 hours. The game is comfy, simply put, pretty stressless, cute, and dense with detail, showing a more natural side of Pokemon that even the anime rarely shows, with Pokemon kind of just existing, which makes it much less of a novelty than something like Stadium, which has effectively had its battles in 3D novelty obsoleted by the fact that the games are just 3D now. It's not the most thrilling or high-paced rail shooter in the world, but instead focuses on being atmospheric and puzzly. It's a unique concept that's really only been replicated in its own sequel. A nice brisk game worth spending an afternoon on, especially if you love Pokemon, but even if you don't, it might give you a new appreciation for the characters and world that it builds.